performing artist, an educator, and a supporter of the arts. She performs opera, concert, oratorio, so embarrassed, and sacred music nationally and internationally, and is a recitalist and lecturer on spirituals of the Underground Railroad and other subjects. She's the music director at First Baptist Church in Tarrytown and serves as a board member for the Foundation of Post-Conflict Development for Women in Development, New York. Please welcome Yolanda F. Johnson. Next up, we have KJ Denhert. She is a jazz and folk vocalist and a songwriter. Her special blend of urban, folk, and jazz will move you to laugh, to dance, and even to cry. She performs and records constantly, and she lives in Ossining, so many of us are very privileged to be able to see her pretty regularly. That's not the most impressive thing about her, but it's something we especially appreciate. She's received many prestigious awards, appeared at scores of festivals, and is a regular in many well-loved institutions. She's also the first U.S. citizen from her small family from Grenada originally, and she picked up her first guitar at age 10. Then she toured with an all-female band called Fire, which started the Mother Cyclone label, then formed the New York unit, a group she still performs with. And we are delighted to have you here with us, KJ. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, please welcome Elsa Waithe. Thank you. Elsa Waithe. She's a comedian and an activist. And she is an activist, and she's from Norfolk, Virginia, though she now resides in Brooklyn. And her comedy is a mix of critical but lighthearted jabs on homosexuality and race. Her work has been featured in a number of outlets, including AM New York, New York Post, NPR's This American Life. And in her This American Life segment, her story of the heart wants what the heart wants begins at a Black Lives Matter protest in Grand Central Station. She started a monthly showcase in Brooklyn called Affirmative Laughter, which spotlights groups that are frequently underrepresented in comedy. So please welcome Elsa Waithe. Great, thank you so much. And let me just make sure the microphone is on here for our guests.
It appears that it's on.
Oh, that's our recording device, because we're going to be able to share this conversation on YouTube later on. Yeah, there we go. And you held it nice and close so everybody could hear you. That was what I was going to warn everybody about. These microphones, you have to hold them a little bit closer than you might wish you did. So why don't I just start by allowing any of you to have any immediate reaction to either the film itself or the subject matter, and you can give us a chance to just hear your voice and then give folks a moment to think about what the questions are that they might want to bring to you.
I'll let the singers go first.
I'll start, and I'll just say the thing that I found to be most compelling and interesting about the documentary, and I was raised by a Baptist minister from the South. Okay, I always say if I went around singing all the time, you'd hear me, but I'm a low talker with my speaking voice. It's very interesting to me how social justice movements started in church. It started in church. It started with that passion of being together in church and having that unity. I find it fascinating with the music of the spiritual that I study so much, that's what made it so universal, and you could add your own words and your own life experience to it. So I find that to be an especially compelling aspect of the music of the civil rights movement.
I warned you before to ask me a question because I can talk a lot. I'll try to be brief. When I was asked to be a part of this panel, I said, I'm not qualified. I was asked to play the guitar as Rosetta Tharpe in Cleveland Playhouse. I said, I'm not qualified, and I had one of the most meaningful months of my life. I guess the reason that I'm qualified after all, is that this is the world that my family came to. April 4th, 1968, I was waiting for my 10th birthday. I was in the 4th grade. We'd already lost President Kennedy, and we lost Bobby Kennedy shortly thereafter. The world was a violent, violent place. And I was afraid. I was afraid of the South. And at some point, I'll try to give a little more picture of how daunting the world can be. Music can inspire us, and we can learn from music. From the very same school in the New York City school system in the Bronx, I can recite the First Amendment. I will, and I'll be quiet. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the rights of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I'll stop there. I learned that as a song in the 4th grade.
I as well was thinking that I may not be qualified for this. I don't have a background in music, but I understand that we all have a background in music. And what struck me the most about this video is that, for one, if we fast forward in a couple of decades, these videos that we watched here will be no different from the videos and the things that are happening now. I am a street level activist, as some people say, and as much as music and songs are needed in the movement, I also believe that humor is also needed in the movement. And one of the things that really struck me about the movie is how they talked about taking old songs and adding new lyrics, changing the lyrics to be applicable towards what's happening in the moment. And we actually, back in the city, have took one of those songs, Which Side Are You On? And we made a Know Your Rights song to sing. And it goes a little like, gots to know your rights, gots to know your rights. Am I free to go, or am I being detained? And so this is where there's a whole song where we go through what to do if you get arrested. And so what really stuck out to me is that history really does repeat itself. And without even knowing some of the information here in this video, we do the same exact things. And we've made up songs and we've made up chants. We have chants for Eric Garner, we have chants for Mike Brown, we have chants for Sandra Bland, and every time there's another name, we add another lyric. So it's just very heartening to see that these things continue to happen, but what gives these folks hope, the songs, the music, the camaraderie, is the same exact things that we are building on top of today.
So, does anyone have any questions for our panelists? Okay, who wants to be the last question? All of you want to be the last question. So now, who wants to be the first question?
Can you sing the song that you learned in the 4th grade in the Bronx?
I mean, with how it was a terrible song. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I think it's a terrible melody. The point is that it stayed with me, and actually the truth is, I am planning to rearrange the First Amendment.
Don't be shy. Come on, KJ just sang for everybody. You can answer my question. Well, yes.
In front.
I'll bring you the mic so everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. I noticed that with rap music, it's like a whole different concoction of what's going on now with different types of things, and it's like, it's a whole different world, but at the same time, it's not. So I can feel where you're coming from.
I guess being the youngest person here, I guess being the youngest person here on the panel, I'll take that one.
Hey.
Sorry. What I like to tell people about hip hop or rap music these days is not to listen to what's on the radio. We don't control the airwaves, so the rap music that you hear on the radio is the rap music that white people want you to hear, and the rap music that you hear on the radio is. People used to tell, like, you ask my father, right? My father was a real big rap head growing up in the 70s and 80s when rap music was first starting to take hold. And, he says, well, rap music's not about anything anymore. And I was like, I tell him that, well, hip hop and hippity hop doesn't mean anything either. But, but there are messages in rap music if you listen to what's not on the what's not on the radio. What's on the radio is designed to give you an image of what the mainstream establishment wants you to think about black people or think about rap music. So that music is full of violence, gratuitous drug use, misogyny, things of that nature. But I see Tupac when I listen to when I listen to Kendrick Lamar. I see Tupac when and most of the stuff that you hear on the radio is not Kendrick Lamar, right? When you hear Kendrick Lamar on the radio, that song is about the club. When you listen on his album, though, those are the songs that are about black pain and black struggle and about overcoming. And so I tell people that rap music is just as good now as it was back then. It's just what do the powers that be want you to hear? And what the powers that be want you to hear typically is not what's uplifting. But I think that there is positive messages in rap music if you are willing to listen for it. If you are willing to look for it and get past what's on the radio.
Oh boy.
I was surprised. Oh, Teacher, you tell wonderful stories when we say nothing, so please tell us a story.
I think that what we need to look at right now, and nobody's asked me to solve the world's problems, so I'm going to mention that. But we need to look at human nature. And we also need to look at what was going on in 1968 and what is going on today. And it is different. I can walk into a restaurant in Florida, in Alabama, in Louisiana. I might not get the same service. I might not get the same service in Albany. Human nature, human behavior, and the ways that we settle for symbols. Music is a symbol of an emotion. Be it rap music or country music. I saw something that said, know your rights, defend your rights, fight for your rights. If I said to you, guess where I read that? A, Medgar Evers said it. B, Martin Luther King said it. C, I read it in a fortune cookie. Anyone want to guess? It was in my fortune cookie 3 days ago. The fact that it was in the fortune cookie, I take that as a little bit on that Twilight Zone spectrum I like to live on. But the point is that it doesn't matter from whence it comes. It doesn't matter if I'm black or white. I was born colored. I became a Negro, and then I was African American by the time I was 20-something. And I liked James Taylor and Joni Mitchell. And there were many people who found that not black enough. That was very hard. We're very hard on each other. White people can be hard on white people. Black people can be hard on black people. People need to be good to themselves and learn who they are. Without the symbolism, there are a lot of great things going on. The fact that we're all here in this room should be celebrated. And I thank you all for taking the time on a Thursday night to be here. That's why I always say that's why they gave me a guitar, so I would stop talking.
I really don't need a microphone.
I know, but we use it like a talking stick, which I'm afraid to say because there's no.
Hello,
sequence.
everyone. My name is Teresa, and this week, my mentor was 103 years old. And I went to visit her on Monday, and I had tea with her. She has her great faculties, and she's also a musician.
We performed together.
Yeah, Yolanda performed with her. She played the piano. But when I look at this, and I'm your contemporary, because I too was a colored, Negro, Afro-American. You forgot African-American. And I remember throughout my whole entire lifetime the different changes that I've had. I can talk too, but I'm not going to talk a lot. Lisa knows. She has to tell me to shut up. But when I did see this film, I thought about my family and my mother. And I come from a line of very strong women. And I remember we were singing We Shall Overcome. And we were part of the protest, but that was in Queens. I grew up the early part of my life in Queens, and Queens was very segregated. And I remember I lived in the projects, and when I did go to school, I would get chased by white men shooting me with BB guns. And I also remember that we had a segregated Queensbridge elementary school. So I think of my mother, so that's why I'm a little bit emotional, and I think of my aunt, who were very, very, important and very important in the struggle. And they also taught us, actually as kids, because I have 7 sisters and have 6 brothers. So we all are basically in the fight. Until today, we are still doing the same fight. We may have a different approach. We may work with different people, have an extraordinary, great friends, different walks of life. And, I embrace people. But music is always great, and I heard all those songs, I know all those songs, and I know different ways that have been sung, but I'm going to be quiet, and I think the next person should take the mic.
Well, I'm gonna
But
say
I
that-
really appreciate you guys, I really do. And I don't listen to rap, but I will now. Because
I'll give you some recommendations.
I'm going to dig for it, and I will, and I love jazz. So, and Yolanda knows I love her too. So.
Do me a favor, if you have some particular artist you'd like to recommend or some particular resources, go ahead and write it on that pad on your way out, and we'll share it on social media afterwards so we can all listen to some inspiring musicians. Please, Yolanda.
I think that the point that you make is really poignant because the reason that this documentary is called Soundtrack for a Revolution, this music evolved with the struggle, right? When I do all of my research on spirituals, I've been perplexed at times, heartbroken at times, joyous at other times. It runs you through all of the different emotions because they started out as slave songs in West Africa, work songs that they brought over here, and then they evolved into spirituals. There are thousands of spirituals. We don't even know all of them because of the oral tradition that was illustrated in the documentary. It's a life experience, it's a personal experience, and the song becomes your own. Through civil rights, keep your eyes on the prize. What was that originally? Keep your what on the what?
On the prize.
Keep your hand on the plow. Yes. When the workman works and you plow, that was a chain gang song, and then it went on from there. But it started in Africa. It came here with all the different changes in the names, and these were personal experiences. In my own family, I have emotional moments on stage where I can't stay in character for this one thing. And that is after the Civil War, the family divided, and half of them stayed as indentured servants. On the plantation, they kept the name Knight with a K, and the others traveled over to Native people territory in Oklahoma. That was my family, and their name was changed to Hooks. But they all had to make a decision as to what they were going to do. But with them, they took the songs, the songs are what got them over to Oklahoma from Alabama. It was all about that universality of having that personal song.
Not to speak about Kendrick Lamar again, but I will speak about Kendrick Lamar again. He has a song called "All Right," and there's a part of the song where he says over and over, "We gon' be all right. We gon' be all right." And the song is about the struggles of the hood, but then at the end of the day, as long as we got each other, we gonna be all right. This is something that comes up when we're at protests, when someone gets pulled out of the march, and we will do that part of the song to let that person know that someone's coming down to the jail for you, and that we are going to continue to march. The police will often grab a woman or grab someone small out of the crowd to then disrupt everybody. We all want to turn and protect the woman or the elderly person. And we sing that song to let them know that even though we are going to continue to march, someone's going to come down to jail to come get you. You're going to be all right, and we're going to be all right. And if you've seen in Baltimore, in the Baltimore uprising, there are videos of people gathered around police cars that they have taken from the police, and they are chanting that part of the song. And so that there are, I think, updated and new versions of this, and like I said, we make up chants. And one of the things I like to do as a comedian is I like to do the joke brigade, which is if there's a tense standoff with the police, you just go down the line and you pick off every police officer and you find something about them that looks silly, like, okay, your hat doesn't fit, okay, they didn't give you the real baton, you got the broomstick baton, or you on probation, like, your helmet looks too tight, like, we'll find reasons to joke the police officers. And then what that does then is it adds what I like to say a little lube to a tense situation. Sometimes the other police officers laugh at that cop. Sometimes now we're all, instead of arguing, we're taking a moment to laugh. I'm not trying to make them laugh, but it's just finding a moment to inject some humanity into the moment, and I feel that there's lots of parallels with involving music and involving humor. People often ask me, Elsa, when you're on stage, how can you talk about subjects such as police brutality and make that funny? I say, well, if you think about racism and police brutality, once you pull back all the hurt and hate and anger, it's actually a little absurd. It's actually really silly. And again, I call that interjecting lube into the conversation. It's really hard to be afraid of something that you're laughing at. And so I think that's very similar to everyone singing and keeping their spirits up. I've been written up in the Side Splitter magazine for doing sets while we're in jail, running comedy, running jokes while we're all in jail, and keeping everyone laughing. So it's along the same lines, I think. So that's where I draw my parallels.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Biblical references.
I'm wondering what you think about the possibility and the need for protest movements now.
Is the question, what is the need? What do we need now?
What's the possibility? What's happening?
I think right now, marginalized groups have, I want to say, hit a glass ceiling. What I like to say is that black people didn't create racism or white supremacy, so it's not on black people to dismantle white supremacy. And it's our job to continuously resist, but we didn't create these conditions for us. So the sooner white people get on board and they're willing to take directions and take leadership and to humble themselves behind black leadership, the sooner we'll get to where we're going. There's too many people in the world right now who understand abstractly, but are not willing to do the things that are going to be uncomfortable. People are going to have to die. People are going to have to hurt. And nonviolence, in my opinion, is a road. It is a path, but there are many paths. And so we must have the folks who are being nonviolent. We must have the folks who are being a little more aggressive. We need a legislative approach, and we just need somebody to, every now and then someone's going to have to throw a punch. And I think the sooner that people are going to get uncomfortable, then the faster this goes. This has to get uncomfortable for everyone. I think that marginalized groups are doing the lion's share of the work and carrying the lion's share of the weight. And while people are still
May I have your attention, please? The library will be closing in a half hour. Please note that the computers will be shutting down in about 15 minutes. Please save all your work.
Okay, Control S. Save. But I'll wrap that up by saying that I don't think there's anything else I'm going to do. My job is to survive. So I think as soon as white people decide what they are willing to sacrifice, what they are willing to give up, and then begin to give up those things, there are still too many people waiting for the tanks to roll down the street. There are still too many people waiting for it to feel like it. Fascism will not feel like it. It's already here. So figure it out today, figure it out yesterday.
And remember that this has only been a generation.
Yes.
It's been a generation. People are still alive now.
These people are still alive.
Change takes about 100 years. You can't think that we're post-racial. You can't think that it's all okay already. And like you just described, it has to be a multi-pronged approach where you don't become complacent, I think, and that you take all avenues, all roads to continue.
I was gonna say, it sounds like a good, it's like giving birth to a child. It's not comfortable, and it's painful, and it's not something that you're going to be able to do easily at all. And then once the birth comes, you have to raise the child. And I was struck by the part that they were talking about with the children, that getting the children involved played a big part of it. And then I also was looking at how people, some of the guys were talking about how they were raised. So parenting has a lot to do with it. You know, how you put ideas in your children's minds, and children, when they're playing, they don't know that there's this or that idea unless it's birthed in them through education. So, you know, that's something that struck me.
To that point, though, I will say that I think the kids are going to be all right. I mentor and I teach teens, and we asked the teens what they wanted to talk about. I really thought they were going to talk about like bullying and like body image stuff. They wanted to talk about race and income inequality and sexism, and I was like, I don't know what I was talking about at 14, but these kids are already there.
I just wanted to say, I think there's this weird disconnect between like us and what we see on the screen because of what history has done, like, you know, whatever the history has painted people as, and we say, oh, these people are heroes. I could never see myself in this situation. And so I think that's why a lot of people aren't standing up too, because they don't see themselves as these people who can do these things, even though they were people too.
What I often tell my teens is that they need to focus on sphere of influence. I tell my teens that they need to focus on sphere of influence, right? Like, racism, huge. Sexism, huge. I'm not saying you need to go out there and, like, you know, tackle every single problem. But what I try to tell the kids is, like, all oppression is interlocked, and it's all interlaced, and every issue affects another issue. And so I just tell them to figure out what's the thing that they're most passionate about, and then what's the thing you can do today. Who's somebody you could talk to today? Is there a book you can read today? And once you start to work in your sphere of influence, you become powerful in that small section. And you don't know who you're impacting. And I mean, I didn't know what I was doing when I first went out to a protest. I just was like, this shit's fucked. Right? And I just went out there. And then next, you know, I started talking to other people, and okay, what can I do with this program? You guys want me to come and bring the snacks? Okay, damn it, I'll bring the snacks. You know, and like I just started bringing snacks to things. And I would show up at the protest with a big backpack full of snacks and cough drops and earplugs and like just.
Along with my Mozart, I had to learn the Freedom Songs.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather said, you can't play the Moonlight Sonata until you do We Shall Overcome. And it's a serious thing, and it changed my life. I'm the person that I am because I remember that, because I understand what happened, and it happened when I was a very small child, and it changed the way that I just even developed.
Thank you.
And the only thing that I want to remind people is the state of the undocumented immigrants in this country right now who live in virtual invisibility, and the refugees from Syria and from the Middle East with no home, washing up on beaches. There's a lot to be done, and there's a lot going on. A very quick anecdote. I was invited to Cairo many times in my life. After the first revolution, I went to a cocktail party, and someone said to me, I predict the leader, the new leader that had come from the revolution, he'll be gone in 3 months. And I said to him, how many people do you think will have to die for that to happen? And the man looked at me and said, sometimes people have to die. I'd never been at a cocktail party where someone looked at me and said, sometimes people have to die. I'd never been in a master class where someone said, well, I'm from Syria and I play the bass and I do post-production and I'm looking for work. Because imagine if I had to leave my home in Ossining and move to Oklahoma to find work because I wasn't welcome here. So there's a whole world of change that is going on and needs to go on. And yes, be kind in your sphere of influence and look at the broader picture. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elsa and KJ. You've really brought so many of your thoughts there in those final comments and give us something to carry with us. And Yolanda, you're going to share with us an exercise for the final few minutes of our program.
And it was quite fitting. We did not plan this, but what you just said about Kendrick Lamar. So we're going to make our own spiritual, okay? We're going to make our own freedom song, right? Oh, I got some people who are ready for this. I was going to say, you guys will have to help me.
Okay.
So just tell me, let's see, we'll do 3 different things. Tell me something that's going on in your life.
Broke.
You broke? All right. Broke? What else? Anybody else?
Very sick husband.
Sick husband? Okay. Broke, sick husband? What else?
Stress.
Stressed out?
Yes.
All right. So those are
General
the
stress.
general stress. Yeah. Those are the 3 things that we're going to focus upon. But just like with the freedom songs and the sorrow songs and the songs that led us through and continue today, the universality in our own lives, we're going to create our own spiritual. And the way that I do it is a way that I was taught through oral tradition, is that I'm going to be all right. Okay? Say, and I'm going to be all right.
I'm going to be all right.
And just like what these 2 ladies were just saying, I'm going to echo that as well, that within your sphere of influence, you have to stay the light. Let your light shine through whatever else is happening, right? Because you're going to be all right. Say it again, I'm going to be all right.
I'm going to be all right.
All right, so we're going to do it. Can I get some rhythm in here too? Come on.
Well,
Okay, wait, stop. I'm sorry. I once almost stopped attending a church because they clapped on 1 and 3. Okay. Are you ready to move on? Okay, all right. Now, the way the chorus goes, what we're going to sing together is, and I'm gonna be alright. I want to hear you say that. Ready? And I'm gonna be alright. Well, I'm broke. I can't get paid. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know where my dinner is coming from. I'm gonna be alright. Well, I'm broke and my husband's not feeling so well. I know that this body is a tough place to dwell.
all of you for joining us here. When is our next screening? Oh, there it is, March 15th, the Empowerment Project. Come and see some really terrific things that women are doing. So you can plug a
Can I
thing.
plug the thing? Okay, yeah, so also I'm funny too, right? So if you guys are in the city, I do a monthly comedy show, like they said, at Affirmative Laughter. It's not in Brooklyn anymore, it's actually at the LGBTQ Center in the city, in Manhattan on 13th Street. I'm gonna be there back-to-back weekends coming up, okay? So on the 23rd, February 23rd, is Affirmative Laughter. It's a comedy show dedicated to diversity and hilarity, and every month we only hire one white guy. And then, that's my affirmative hire. And then come back March 2nd, me and a friend of mine, Wajiko Ike, we're both recording our half hours to send away to agents. So it'd be nice to have your nice, shiny, smiley laughs and faces on the recording. And I also do cop watch trainings, before a cop watch training.
Great, Elsa. We'll put some links on the documentary discussion Facebook page. You want to give a quick plug?
On March 22nd, I do a special concert with two colleagues of mine of music of all women composers from the very first, Hildegard von Bingen in the Middle Ages, through living composers today and African American women composers, called Music She Wrote. We're performing it March 22nd at the Lehman College Art Gallery. It's really cool. If you're not there, you're never going to hear this music, because if it was anonymous, it was probably by a woman.
Thank you.
KJDenhert.com. I'm in town on Saturday at the...
Thank you, Bob. We hope to see you on March 15th right back here.